Hi, I'm Paul Edwards, author of the Mourners Woods books, and first and foremost, a monster kid. Tonight, I'm reading Famous Monsters of Filmland magazine, issue 149 from November 1978. I thought you might enjoy flipping through this vintage magazine with me. Together, let's see what kinds of monster kid goodness is in here. You would almost think that this is Battlestar Galactica magazine, wouldn't you? With an article about famous monsters. But no, this is Famous Monsters of Filmland magazine. They just really, really wanted you to know in this particular issue that Battlestar Galactica was getting coverage. Like the huge honking Cylon wasn't evidence enough. So, Star Wars was a huge cultural phenomenon in 1977 into 1978. So the fact that a Star Wars-like weekly television series was coming to TV, Battlestar Galactica, was a big deal in the fall of 1978 when this magazine came out. So of course we're going to get coverage on Galactica. I don't know why 10 is written here. I did not write that there, and I also don't know what it stands for. It's certainly not issue 10. It's issue 149. So... all right, let's get going. Of course, even though we're not talking about vintage monsters anymore, Forrest J. Ackerman still has to use his puns. Somebody stole my gal, XE. Okay. Oh, there's a Cylon. Yep. So if you're only familiar with the 2000s version of Battlestar Galactica, you might be disappointed to know that in the original old school Battlestar Galactica, the Cylons did not look like human beings. They were humanoid robots. This is what they looked like. Ooh, Luna. Luna from Mark of the Vampire. Okay, now we get to that. The night Mars invaded Earth. Yikes. Of course, these are from War of the Worlds, the 1953 movie version, War of the Worlds. Oops. There's a ruler of Mars from a serial, The Purple Monster Strikes. That was a movie serial. There's from Angry Red Planet. This would have been much better in color, though, because if you've ever seen Angry Red Planet, you know the whole thing was tinted red. All of the outdoor shots on Mars were tinted red. Oh, and there's a Martian from the Angry Red Planet. Yeah. He's more impressive when you only catch a fleeting glimpse of him, and not quite so impressive when you see a still image of him. Flash Gordon. So there were 3 Flash Gordon movie serials, and the second one was Flash Gordon's Trip to Mars. This is from Just Imagine. Why is it always Mars? Why is it that the old-time movie astronauts never went to, like, Mercury or something? Oh, Invaders from Mars. Yep, that's a good one. Did you ever see the Tobe Hooper remake of Invaders from Mars from the 1980s? I think it might have been 1986. That's really good. He did a really good job of recapturing the vibe of the original in then modern filmmaking techniques. Okay, here we go. Battlestar Galactica. This was big news to us tweens. That's the age group I was in when this came out. This was a big, big deal. We were very stoked for a Star Wars-like TV series to come into our living rooms every Sunday night. We weren't especially stoked for Muffet, the robotic dog, Daggett, which incidentally was portrayed by a chimpanzee in a costume. There's Apollo, the main hero. So the weird thing about Battlestar Galactica, the TV series, is this. They clearly wanted to have a project that looked and felt as much like Star Wars as possible, but with a completely different story. And the underlying story of Battlestar Galactica is very different from the story of Star Wars. It really is. But it looks like a Star Wars ripoff because they copied so much imagery from Star Wars. For example, the Colonial Vipers, are clearly inspired by the X-Wing fighters. There's the Outer Space Motown group. Somehow we're back to Buster Crabbe. I'm not sure why he's in there. That doesn't really seem to make sense. Okay, this is also from Flash Gordon. There's Ming the Merciless. The article is still telling us about Battlestar Galactica. I don't know, man. The line at the box office. So the original Battlestar Galactica episodes, the first couple of episodes, were spliced together into a feature film and shown in, as a 2-hour special when they first premiered the show on TV. In other countries, they were shown in the theater. And so this is a report saying the lines to the box office was as long as for Star Wars. The line at the box office was as long as for Star Wars, which Star Wars did have big lines. So that's pretty impressive. Okay, Buster Crabbe as Flash Gordon. Okay. Maren Jensen said in an interview when the show was premiering that her role as Athena would be a groundbreaking role for women in television. Well, if you're familiar with the series, Athena's role was very minor. She was basically an outer space receptionist in the command center on the Battlestar Galactica. She was brother to Apollo. And really, the most that she did in any story was to serve as one of 2 love interests to Starbuck, because Starbuck had a romantic triangle between her and another woman named Cassiopeia. And among these 2 female roles, Cassiopeia's was a way better role, way better. Athena's role was nothing. And as you watch the episodes, if you watch the episodes in order, you see her less and less as the episodes go on. Ooh. Yep. So here's something sad, unfortunately. I wish I was making this up, but I'm not. These spaceships here, this was the good guy's ship and this was the bad guy's ship from Battlestar Galactica. They had spring-loaded fluorescent plastic projectiles, and when you hit the switch, the spring-loaded projectile would shoot out and it looked like a bolt of an energy weapon being fired, right? Just like on the screen. Well, unfortunately, some kid was extremely seriously injured by the fire of one of these, and the entire toy industry changed the way spring-loaded projectiles would work in toys as a result of it. So that's why now, if they were to make this ship now, and you hit the switch, the little plastic projectile would just go like that and be really sad. That's why, because they used to be bam like that, and all it takes is one kid to get injured, and of course everything has to change. So unfortunately, that's a true story. You can Google it. Luna Lives. So this was the vampire girl from Mark of the Vampire, starring Bela Lugosi. Or if you're a Rob Zombie fan, this was The Living Dead Girl. That's where he got that image from. Here she is now, years later. The Black Cat strikes again. Yikes. We had a black cat when I was a kid, and my mother always insisted that the cat stay in on Halloween night because she was afraid somebody would hurt her for being a black cat on Halloween night. Nobody ever did, though. The cat was fine. Don't worry. You know, the Cask of Amontillado is such a grim story. I'll never, ever understand why they played it for laughs in this segment of the Edgar Allan Poe anthology movie. Yikes. Oh, that's gotta hurt. I don't care what decade you're in. The cat girl. Yeah, off the top of my head, I do not remember the cat girl. I don't remember this one. Do you? When I'm done making this, now I'm going to have to go and look it up online. I know the Black Cat, of course. One of the great co-starring movies where Boris Karloff and Bela Lugosi appeared together. In fact, I'm pretty sure, yeah, this was the first film in which Lugosi and Karloff appeared together. They wound up doing, I think it was 8 films together total, but this was the first. Of course, they're selling all kinds of Star Wars merch. Do you really need Chewbacca pendant? Well, maybe you do. I don't know. Yeah. Some people were absolutely gaga for the Planet of the Apes franchise in the 1970s. Before Star Wars came out, like for the first half of the 70s, Planet of the Apes was the science fiction franchise that all the merchandise and toys were for. I like most of the movies in the Planet of the Apes series. I did not like the second one, Beneath the Planet of the Apes. I never cared for that one. It's a mess. I thought the third one, Escape from Planet of the Apes, was way better. Charlton Heston, the late great Charlton Heston. The also late great Victor Buono, probably best remembered by my generation as having played the supervillain King Tut on Batman. He did a lot of genre TVs and movies. He did A Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea where he was the bad guy. Oh. The excellent ape makeup. Oops. Yep, I'm missing one here. There we go. Oh, yikes. House of Wax. This was the 1950s remake of Mystery of the Wax Museum, which had starred Lionel Atwill and Fay Wray back in the 30s. Which do you like better? The House of Wax from the 50s or the original from the 30s? I like them both. It's hard to say. What's a nice girl like her doing in a chamber of horrors? There's a pickup line from Monster Kids. Incidentally, you almost wouldn't notice, but that's Charles Bronson. Charles Bronson plays the mute, brutish assistant. Yikes. Yeah, well, spoilers. That's how Vincent Price ends up looking after the fire. That's supposed to be a secret revealed at the end. Thanks for spoiling it, Famous Monsters. Famous Monsters of Filmland magazine did have a problem where they would often print pictures that spoiled a movie. If you hadn't seen it yet, you probably shouldn't read the FM article on it because it might give away something. Like, famously, when Dracula versus Frankenstein came out, they revealed who won. Well, if you haven't seen the movie yet, that's pretty disappointing. Nope. Let's try again. There we go. Oh. Remember these? Love it. So you can get a Zodar Action Attack Warrior or a Zoark Action Attack Warrior. I don't remember these at all. Looks like they shoot plastic discs. Huh. Yep. Of course, the Star Wars mail order industry was going strong. Look, they don't even call it a lightsaber. Star Wars Force Beam. Huh. Yep, Close Encounters of the Third Kind. I really liked that film. In fact, I read the novelization of it. Now that I'm seeing it, I remember. A galaxy of Star Wars items. Wow. Oh, I have this poster. All right, what should we order? We got a lot of lines here. We can order a lot of goodies. Oh, and here's the Star Wars action figures. I had every single one of these, although I no longer have a couple of them. Unfortunately, one of my children, and I won't say which one, lost my old R2-D2 figure. And my Luke Skywalker is headless. I have a Luke Skywalker. I have this figure, but with no head. I don't know why. All these others I have, though. Yep. Huh. Okay. Well, I live in New York State, and this magazine came to me from California, so it's worked its way across the country over time. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Nice. And this magazine's in pretty good condition for its age. I'm not loving the fact that 10 is written on it. I still haven't figured that out. Listen, if you're a fan of classic monsters and vintage horror, check out my book series, the Mourners Woods books. I'm self-published on Amazon. I've written a series of novels that recapture the vibe and feel of 20th century monster movies, but in a contemporary setting. My name again is Paul Edwards. My books are the Mourners Woods books. They're for sale dirt cheap on Amazon. Thanks for looking through Famous Monsters of Filmland issue 149 with me. This one was fun. I'll see you in Mourners Woods.